It is a Tuesday, much like any other. Across the planet, humanity hums along to a digital rhythm, a silent, invisible pulse connecting billions. In London, a trader watches numbers flicker across a screen, a fortune won or lost in a millisecond. In a Tokyo skyscraper, a young woman laughs at a video on her phone, sharing it instantly with a friend thousands of miles away. A satellite, high above the Earth, silently processes a stream of data, guiding a ship through the vast, dark expanse of the Pacific Ocean. Everywhere, from the busiest city to the most remote village, glowing rectangles hold our attention, our memories, our money, and our future. It is the lifeblood of our modern world, a complex web of light and information we have woven around our globe. The air itself seems to crackle with this unseen energy. Power grids are managed by distant computers, ensuring lights stay on without a thought. Water flows to our homes through systems monitored from afar. In a hospital, a surgeon consults with a specialist on another continent, viewing high-resolution scans in real time to save a life. Children in a classroom in rural Kenya access a library of knowledge larger than any building could hold. We have become accustomed to this magic, this instant connection. It is so deeply embedded in our existence that we no longer see it. It is simply there, like the air we breathe or the ground beneath our feet, and assumed constant in the equation of our lives. But then, something shifts. It is not a sound, not an explosion, not a tremor felt in the earth. It is a sudden, profound, and universal quiet. It is the absence of something we never knew had a presence. The digital pulse, the lifeblood of the 21st century, flatlines. The web, this extraordinary human creation, simply vanishes. Every server, every router, every satellite link goes dark in the same instant. All the screens go blank, displaying error messages that can no longer be sent anywhere for diagnosis. The intricate dance of data that holds our world together comes to an abrupt and total halt, a final, silent, digital breath. For a moment, nothing seems to happen. The sun continues to shine, the wind still blows, birds continue their songs, utterly unaware of the human catastrophe unfolding in perfect silence. But for humanity, this is the second the world broke. It is the beginning of a new, unwritten chapter, an age of profound and terrifying silence. The world before this second and the world after will be two entirely different places. The global brain has ceased to think, and we, its individual cells, are suddenly, irrevocably, on our own. The great invisible support structure of our civilization has just disappeared without a trace. The first minute is one of quiet, personal frustration. A video call freezes, an email refuses to send, a web page hangs, perpetually loading. People tap their screens, reboot their devices, and sigh at what seems to be a momentary glitch. In offices, workers glance at each other over their monitors, shrugging. Is the Wi-Fi down for you too? Becomes the most common question on Earth. It is an inconvenience, a small ripple in the flow of the day. There is no panic yet, only the familiar annoyance of a technology that sometimes fails us. We have been trained to be patient, to wait for the system to correct itself, for the connection to be restored. As minutes stretch into an hour, that annoyance begins to curdle into a strange and growing unease. Every digital avenue is a dead end. Mobile phones show no signal bars, not a single one. Television screens display nothing but static or a stark no-signal message. The constant stream of news, updates, and notifications that forms the background noise of our lives has vanished, replaced by an unnerving quiet. People step outside their homes and offices looking around as if the answer might be written in the sky. They see their neighbors doing the same, a shared look of confusion passing between them. The problem is not just in one building or one neighborhood, it is everywhere. The reality begins to set in with a cold, creeping dread. This is not a simple outage. The silence is too absolute, too universal. The tools we use to understand our world, search engines, news websites, social media feeds, are gone. We are suddenly blind and deaf to anything happening beyond our immediate line of sight. Rumors begin to spread, but they do so at the speed of a human voice, not the speed of light. Whispers of a solar flare, a cyber attack, a coordinated act of terror travel from person to person. Without any way to verify information, fear becomes the most contagious virus, spreading through crowds with alarming speed. By the end of the first day, the initial shock has solidified into a stark and terrifying new reality. The world has not ended, but the world we knew is gone. Families are cut off from loved ones across town or across the globe, with no way to know if they are safe. The familiar glow of screens in the evening is replaced by darkness and silence, a void once filled with endless entertainment and connection. We are left alone with our thoughts, our communities, and the looming uncertainty of what tomorrow will bring. The planet, once a global village, has shattered into billions of isolated islands of humanity. The disappearance of the internet is not just an inconvenience, it is a catastrophic failure of the world's central nervous system. The second day dawns on a world teetering on the edge of chaos. The global financial system, a construct of pure data that exists only on interconnected servers, evaporates. Bank accounts, stock markets, credit card transactions, they all cease to exist. ATMs are useless bricks. People's life savings, represented by numbers on a screen, are now gone. The economy grinds to a halt, not because the money is gone, but because the system for tracking it has vanished. Businesses cannot pay suppliers, and employees cannot be paid their wages. The arteries of civilization, our supply chains, are severed. Modern logistics are a ballet of just-in-time delivery, orchestrated entirely by the internet. Without it, ships at sea have no destination, trucks on highways have no manifest, and trains have no schedules. Supermarket shelves, normally restocked overnight by this invisible system, begin to empty with terrifying speed. First go the bread, milk, and bottled water. Soon, everything else follows. The seamless flow of goods from farm to factory to store is broken, and the complex chain of dependencies that feeds our cities begins to unravel piece by piece. Hospitals, once beacons of high-tech care, are thrown back a century. Patient records, stored digitally, are inaccessible. Sophisticated diagnostic machines that rely on software and network connections become inert sculptures of metal and plastic. Doctors and nurses must rely on memory and paper, but even the supply of basic medicines is now uncertain. The ability to coordinate emergency services collapses. Without GPS, ambulances struggle to find addresses. Without a central dispatch, firefighters and police are uncoordinated, responding only to what they can see or hear directly. The systems designed to protect us are themselves victims of the digital silence. Travel becomes a memory. The air traffic control system, which manages the thousands of planes in the sky, goes dark. While emergency protocols might guide planes already in the air to land safely, no new flights can take off. The global dance of aviation is over. Cars with advanced computer systems might fail, but even more fundamentally, fuel distribution grinds to a halt. Gas stations cannot process payments, and the tankers that refill their underground reservoirs are lost in the broken supply chain. Our world, once made small by technology, suddenly feels impossibly large and disconnected once more. In the face of systemic collapse, a remarkable and ancient instinct begins to stir the human drive to adapt and endure. After the initial days of panic and despair, small pockets of order begin to emerge from the chaos. People realize that the only reliable resource they have left is each other. Neighbors who had never spoken before begin to gather in the streets not just for comfort, but to solve problems. They pool their resources, sharing food from their pantries and gardens. They create neighborhood watch groups to ensure safety, replacing the centralized and now silent emergency services. The community becomes the new unit of survival. Information, once a torrent, is now a precious trickle that must be cultivated. People turn to old technologies. The crackle of shortwave and ham radios returns as hobbyists become vital communication hubs, relaying messages and news between towns. Printing presses, if they can be powered, are fired up to produce simple newsletters with verified local information about water sources, food distribution, and community meetings. Town criers, a role once relegated to history books, reappear in public squares. Information is local, slow, and tangible again, passed by hand or by voice, and its value increases immeasurably. New, or rather old, economies begin to form. With the formal financial system gone, barter becomes the language of commerce. A bag of potatoes is traded for a set of batteries, a mechanic's skill for a supply of firewood. People's value is no longer determined by a number in a bank server, but by their practical skills and the tangible goods they possess. Farmers, carpenters, nurses, and engineers find themselves at the center of these new microeconomies. Society begins to reorient itself around real-world production and essential services, a stark contrast to the abstract world of digital finance. Ingenuity flourishes out of necessity. Without complex supply chains, people learn to repair what is broken instead of replacing it. They rediscover forgotten skills: how to preserve food, how to navigate by the stars, how to generate power with small-scale local means. Libraries, once quiet sanctuaries, become vital centers of knowledge, their physical books holding the blueprints of a lost world. This is not a return to a golden age, it is a difficult, often brutal struggle for existence. Yet, in this struggle, humanity rediscovers its own resilience, its capacity for invention, and its deep-seated need for community. The loss is immense, a wound on the body of human civilization. We would lose the incredible efficiency that the internet provided, the ability to organize and mobilize on a global scale. The accumulated knowledge of humanity, much of it stored exclusively in digital formats on servers now dark, would be lost forever. A library of Alexandria burning in silent, invisible flames. Scientific progress would stall, as international collaboration becomes impossible. The global perspective, the sense that we are all part of one interconnected human family, would fade, replaced by a more fractured, tribal and localized view of the world. We would lose a universe of art, music and stories that existed only in the digital realm. The instant connection to friends and family across vast distances would be severed, leaving a profound sense of isolation and grief. The convenience of modern life, which we so often took for granted, would be stripped away, revealing the complex and fragile systems that supported it. The world would become a harder, slower, and in many ways, a more dangerous place. The promise of a technologically advanced future, of smart cities and artificial intelligence would evaporate, leaving behind only the ghost of a dream. Yet, in this great loss there might also be an unexpected gain. We would rediscover the world beyond the screen. With the endless digital distractions gone, we might notice the seasons changing, the stars in the night sky, and the faces of the people around us. Our attention, once fractured into a million digital pieces, would become whole again. We might find a new depth in our relationships, forced to communicate face-to-face, to listen, and to rely on one another in profound ways. The pace of life would slow down to a human rhythm, dictated by the sun and the seasons rather than by notifications and deadlines. We might also rediscover our own capabilities. A generation that grew up swiping screens would learn to grow food, to build, to fix, and to create with their hands. We would find a new kind of satisfaction in tangible accomplishments and a deeper connection to the physical world. Communities, strengthened by mutual dependence, could become more cohesive and resilient. In the silence left by the vanished internet, we might find the space to think more deeply, to be more present in our own lives, and perhaps to build a new kind of society, one that is slower and less efficient but perhaps more human. To imagine a world without the internet is to confront the very nature of our modern existence. We have, in the space of a single generation, outsourced our collective memory, our social connections, and the operational logic of our civilization to this extraordinary yet fragile network. Its disappearance would be an extinction-level event for the society we have built. It reveals a profound dependency, a vulnerability we have ignored in our rush for progress and convenience. We have constructed a magnificent global cathedral of information, but we have built it on a foundation that could, in theory, simply vanish. The immediate aftermath would undoubtedly be a period of immense hardship and chaos. The collapse of global systems would test the limits of human endurance. Yet, to assume it would be the end of humanity is to underestimate our own species. Throughout our history, we have faced catastrophic change and have always found a way to adapt. We are the descendants of survivors, of innovators, of community builders. The human spirit is not coded in silicon, it is forged in the fires of necessity and connection. The struggle to survive in a disconnected world would be brutal, but it would also be a powerful catalyst for reinvention. What we might learn from such a catastrophe is the timeless value of what is real and tangible. We would be reminded that an economy is not just numbers on a screen, but the exchange of real goods and useful skills. We would learn that a community is not a network of followers, but a group of people who show up for each other. We would remember that knowledge is not just data, but wisdom that can be passed down through generations. The internet has given us a world of incredible breadth, but in doing so, we may have sacrificed some of our depth. Ultimately, the thought experiment of a world without the internet is a mirror held up to our present. It asks us to consider what is truly essential. It forces us to see the invisible structures we depend on, and to appreciate the human connections that technology can augment, but never truly replace. While we should marvel at the world we have built, we must also remain humble about its fragility. For our greatest strength has never been in the tools we create, but in the remarkable, resilient, and adaptive spirit of the creatures who create them. And that is a force that no outage could ever hope to extinguish.